everybody, Nick here, and this morning I got a review for you of a very tiny little tool, which is actually kind of cool looking, and that's the Leatherman Style CS. So the Style CS is in Leatherman's little style thing, and it's kind of a miniaturized skeletal, which is interesting. Just to give you a tour of what it's got on there, it's a knife on one side, it has a little file on the other side with a screwdriver pry bar. It's got a carabiner, which serves as a bottle opener. It's got a pair of scissors, and one of the nice little surprises on it is that it has a pair of tweezers built in here too. So those are the tools on it. Size-wise, here it is relative to your Leatherman P4 and relative to your Victorinox Classic. And here it is relative to your Spyderco Delica for larger kind of scale, and the US penny for that matter. So, let's just go on ahead and jump into the good, the bad, and the ugly here. And first, though, I want to thank my buddy Dan for sending this out to me. Wouldn't have had a chance to see one otherwise, and it's a nice little tool. So, let's go on ahead and jump in. Okay, so there's a lot of good here. First and foremost, it's very lightweight. We're talking the weight of about 7 US quarters, 1.4 ounces, compared to, I think, 0.75 ounces on your Victorinox Classic. It's just not very heavy, which is good. It can disappear in your pocket very straightforwardly. So I like that a lot. And some of the functionality is good, too. The tweezers are a big hit for me because tweezers are one of those things that you never think you're going to need until you need them. You've got a splinter, you've got an eyelash that you're going after, you've got some other weird little thing that's stuck in you or on something else that you need to get rid of. Tweezers are a wonderful thing, and they're one of those things where if you don't have them, you're going to regret it sooner or later. So tweezers are good. It does have a bottle opener here mixed with your carabiner, which works okay. It's not great for pulling lids off. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does do the trick. It deforms the lid enough that you can get it off the bottle. Not a big deal there. So you've always got one, which is nice. One tool that works very well is this little guy. It's a flathead driver, also a file, and also just a generalized pry bar. And I'm a big fan of little tools that kind of in this shape, because they're really handy. They're good for splitting things apart. So like you're taking something apart and you need a little bit of leverage, you put it in there and twist a little bit, bam, you got it. They're also good for a little bits of scraping and things like that. They're just handy. And this is a good instantiation of it because it's beefy enough that you can do a little bit of prying. And, you know, it just works very nicely there. The knife on this guy is actually kind of a beautiful thing because it's a little bit beefier than on your little Victorinox Cadet here. Victorinox Classic. So here, if you show the two of them next to each other, the Leatherman knife is way bigger and it's also thicker, which is nice. And it's got a better ergonomic setup. You've got a little bit of a choil here, which stops it from closing on your fingers, as opposed to here where it's just, you know, you can do it, but it's just not great. And because it's a little thicker, it's a little easier. It's just a better knife. I don't feel like I can do much cutting with this, and I feel like I'm okay with this. And it's chisel ground, which is not ideal in some ways, but, you know, hey, it works and it sharpens up decently enough. The blade steel's not great, but whatever. So that's good. The scissors are actually decent enough to use. And they've done that by really making the grip right here. You can see that the grip is a little bit thicker than perhaps it needs to be, particularly on this side. But you can use it pretty straightforwardly like this. And the only thing you really have to watch out for is that the piece of paper kind of splits around your hand. And so it's harder to get a really good, consistent, straight cut. But you can definitely do some cutting with this. These aren't the only scissors I'd want to own, by any stretch. But they're one hell of a lot better than the little tiny scissors you get on your Victorinoxes and whatnot. They're spring-loaded in a meaningful way. So these are some good scissors. I'm, you know, pretty impressed with them, especially at this size. Another nice thing here is that this is very easy to clip onto and off of your keychain. If you've got these little guys that are using split rings to attach and detach, that kinda sucks, because sooner or later you're gonna need to get it off your keychain to use it, and then you're dealing with split rings, and split rings just suck. Whereas with this guy, it's just got a carabiner, and so it slots on, slots off. Of course, your keychain probably isn't the Spyderco Delica, but it was handy, so I used it. So there you go. That's a beautiful thing. And then just the design overall struck me as very smart, because, you know, the thickness over here on the knife side, this is unnecessarily thick. Particularly right here, but it's that way so you get good purchase when you're using the scissors. Similarly, the spring on the scissors is very nice. It's actually got an articulated little spring here that you can see here, which provides good opening force. Again, and it doesn't have the little bit that slips past the little spring like this guy that can come or disengaged. And, you know, it's just pretty nicely done. And then the tweezer design is great because it's very easy to get the tweezer out, but you're not going to do it unnaturally. It's not just going to come flying out in the same way that sometimes things can fall out of your Victorinox as you're pulling out of your pocket. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, I mean, there's your good. It's lightweight. It's got some really decent tools for your size here. It's easy to clip on and off. It's got scissors worth a damn, and the design is just good. Let's go into your bad. Okay, a couple of bad things. As I mentioned, the steel is not great. It's 420 HC, which is going to go dull fairly quickly, and considering that this isn't a knife that's really a joy to sharpen, I really do wish they'd done a little bit better. I mean, 154 cm or something like that would be a nice thing. And Leatherman is using it on their other products. I hope that trickles down to here, because that would be good. I'm not a big fan of this random plastic bit here. I just don't necessarily get it, and I wish they'd have just stuck with the same steel here. It would have been slightly less dynamic looking, but this side looks great too. So that just strikes me as a cost-cutting measure where I don't think they needed to cut costs. There you go. And then I'm also, as much as I like having better scissors here, I am a big fan of having pliers and a multi-tool, because in my life, and I'm an office drone, it's usually the case that I can pretty quickly put hands on scissors. Like they're at my desk or they're, you know, down the hall in the copy room or something like that. Pliers are a little harder to find. And so I would rather have a tiny pair of pliers than a tiny pair of scissors. But that's just personal. That's just me. And I'm crazy. We all know this. So there you go. The only ugly thing I could find here ain't that ugly, but that it's fairly bulky for the functionality. I mean, this has about the same in the way of tools as your little Victorinox Classic. The scissors are better and the knife is better, for sure, and frankly, so is the pry bar. But it's a little bit on the large side, particularly with your little clipper here. And the clip is not a bad thing, but it's just not incredibly, I don't know. There's a lot of bulk here, and especially when you compare it to your Leatherman Squirt here, which has a whole bunch more tools. You've got, you know, 4 little tools like this alongside a file, a knife, and a pair of pliers. This is a pretty bulky tool for relatively little functionality. So that's the only ugly thing, but that ain't that bad. What's the final verdict here? Honestly, this little guy has grown on me a lot as I've carried it preparing for this review, because in a lot of ways it is aimed squarely at, you know, your Victorinox Classic here. It's bigger, sure, but everything it's doing is beefier, and it's a little bit better. So, you know, I think if you're looking for something along this lines, but you're like me and you're looking at this and going, that's a little too small and janky for me, this is a really great place to go. And for only $5 more, this is $15, this is $20, you're doing pretty damn good here. It's still a little bulky for me. It's probably not going to be in my life, especially because I'm never that far away from my Leatherman Wave or Charge or something like that. But nonetheless, you know, it's a really compelling little multi-tool. And I mean, I think it's probably a gem. It's a low-grade gem, we'll say that. The cut and color and clarity aren't that incredible, but I do like it a lot. And it's a nice, nice little tool. So, I mean, there you go. If you're looking for something small to keep on your keychain with a couple of good functionalities and you want some decent scissors, this is a really great option to do. And I like it a hell of a lot more than your little Victorinox Classic. But, there you go. I hope this has been interesting and helpful. And have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day.